That evening, everything was perfect. Except me. The room carried the mixed scent of vanilla cake and hot coffee. The rented chairs were placed a little too close together, as if someone had tried to save space. White and light pink balloons were tied to the walls, not so perfect that they looked staged, just perfect enough to look good in photos. It was my sister's engagement dinner. A happy evening. A family moment. I arrived first. I always arrive first. No one had told me to, yet I still confirmed the timing with the venue coordinator. When the DJ's playlist got stuck in an awkward silence, I quietly fixed it. 2 friends showed up with extra +1s. I adjusted the seating. The dessert table ran out of spoons, so I brought some from the back room. No one notices. And honestly, no one really does. For me, all of this was normal. Like breathing. Like automatically handling everything. My sister stood at the center of the room. People gathered around her, someone admiring her ring, someone praising her. My mother looked toward her every few minutes, as if doing a relief check. Everything's fine, she's happy. I stood to the side. Close. But not in focus. Someone laughed and said, "Everything looks so organized." Another added, "This family just knows how to handle things." I heard it. I didn't react. Because I knew how things get handled. Whose shoulders it quietly rests on. My father was comfortably chatting with a guest. He trusted that if something went wrong, no one would panic. My mother was relaxed, because she was sure no details would be missed. No one asks how. It's just assumed that it'll get done. And that it'll get done is often my name. I paused near a chair. Just for a moment. I thought, if I sit down, maybe something will be missed. No one will call out. No one will raise their voice. Everything will just fall apart. So I didn't sit. No one came over to ask why I wasn't sitting. No one said, "You must be tired." Because I'm strong. And strong people don't get tired, at least, not in other people's eyes. My phone was full of reminders, who I needed to talk to later, who was emotionally sensitive, who could get triggered by what. Between every interaction, I was making invisible adjustments. No noise, no explanations, just smoothness. I remember feeling a second of jealousy. Very small. So small that I told myself, this isn't about you. I looked at my sister. Someone told her, "You're really holding everything together." She smiled. With relief. I didn't correct them. At that moment, staying quiet felt sensible. Now it feels like that may have been the beginning. I didn't say that I had sent the emails. I didn't mention that I had attended the planning calls. I didn't point out that when someone was confused, they messaged me, not her. I chose silence. At the time, it felt like maturity. Like love. Like the meaning of being strong. But I didn't realize that in that silence, I was once again placing myself on the side. Making myself invisible. Reliable. But replaceable. And that was my first mistake. Midway through dinner, there was a small announcement. No spotlight. No dramatic pause. My mother lightly tapped her glass. The noise in the room naturally softened. People instinctively lowered their phones, as if everyone knew a family moment was coming. My sister glanced at me, then stepped forward. Her face held that familiar mix, excited, nervous, grateful. "Just 2 minutes," my mother said with a smile. I stood in the back. Exactly where everything is visible, and nothing is asked of me. My mother began speaking, about planning, about support, about how smoothly everything came together. People nodded along. Someone murmured, "So true," now and then. It was all very normal. So normal that I felt, now something familiar will happen. And it did. "We couldn't have done any of this without .. my mother said. And she named someone else. Applause followed. Light, polite clapping. The sound of the applause wasn't loud. But it was very clear to me. Instinctively, I searched the crowd for that name. She was smiling, slightly surprised, slightly proud. People turned toward her. Someone touched her shoulder. Someone said, "You really held everything together." I stood right there. Not moving. Not reacting. For a second, my mind calculated emails, calls, lists, last-minute fixes. Then I stopped myself. This isn't a competition, I told myself. This isn't about you. But in that exact moment, I understood. This line wasn't to tell the truth. It was to protect myself. Because this wasn't the kind of hurt you can point at. No insult. No announcement of exclusion. Just, my name wasn't in the air. I realized I wasn't forgotten. I wasn't deliberately skipped. I was simply not considered. And that realization was oddly calm. Like something that had always existed inside me, but had just become visible. Later, my sister looked at me. A quick thank you in her eyes. I gave a small smile. I said nothing. In that silence, there was a strange bargain. If I don't speak, the atmosphere won't be ruined. If I don't correct anyone, the celebration stays intact. And I always keep the celebration intact. No one came over to ask, how did that feel for you? No one said, you were involved too. Because I don't announce my involvement. I just stay available. For a moment, I wondered, if I walked out right now, would anyone notice? I knew the answer. And I didn't accept it immediately. I just quietly acknowledged it. That was the moment when something inside shifted. Not broken. Just moved from its place. Dinner went on. Plates were changed. Conversations shifted. People laughed. Photos were taken. And I slipped back into that rhythm. Refilling glasses, smoothing awkward pauses, absorbing someone else's discomfort. Everything kept moving. But somewhere inside, very quietly, one line kept repeating. If it's this easy without me, then why am I here? I didn't answer that question that night. I left it there, unfinished. I didn't know that this small moment was the beginning of a larger conflict. I only knew this much. Something registered today. And now it can't be unseen. After that night, everything stayed the same on the outside. No confrontation. No awkward follow-up. The next morning, I woke up to my alarm. The same routine. The same calendar alerts. The same reflex. Handling everything before the day even begins. While making coffee, I checked my phone. Photos had already been shared in the family group. The captions were simple. Smiling faces. Hearts. Gratitude. My name wasn't there anywhere. I scrolled the screen. Once. Then again. There was no sting. Just a slight chill. I put the phone down and told myself, this is normal. I'm always in the background. I'm not made for the spotlight. I had told myself this line before. Today, it just felt a little hollow. The day was busy. Meetings. Emails. My professional life runs like a well-oiled machine. People depend on me. Deadlines get met. Problems get solved. At the office, I'm called reliable, a compliment that never turns into a promotion. In the afternoon, a message came. From my mother. Dinner was lovely. Thanks for everything. Everything. I read the message. Didn't reply. Then I typed, glad it went well. And sent it. In that moment, there was no anger. Just a pause. I remembered college days, when I mediated roommate conflicts. When I handled logistics in friend groups. When emotional cleanup became my role in relationships. Every time, I heard the same sentences. You're so strong. You don't need help. You'll be fine. Maybe I had accepted this role myself. In the evening, I went to the grocery store. Standing in the aisle, in front of cereal boxes, I suddenly felt tired. Not physical tiredness, that's different. This was something else. Like an invisible weight on my shoulders, one I was never asked if I could carry. I leaned on the cart handle and closed my eyes for a second. Just a second. I thought, if I stop right now, will someone step in? The thought was uncomfortable, so I pushed it away. I always push it away. Back home, I kept dinner simple. My phone was on silent. Normally, I keep checking who's late, who needs a reminder. Today, I placed the phone face down. And nothing broke. No calls came. No panic happened. This was where the cut went deeper. Because for the first time, I understood. My presence gave comfort. But my absence wasn't a risk. I didn't try to name it. I didn't call it sadness. I didn't call it betrayal either. It was just a clear understanding. I'm useful, but not necessary. Lying in bed at night, I stared at the ceiling. No dramatic realization. No tears. Just a slow rearrangement, like someone gently shifted the furniture inside me. I knew this feeling wasn't temporary. It was a signal. And I'm very good at ignoring signals. But this time, I decided I would remember it. Some things don't break. They just move from their place. And when that happens, putting them back exactly where they were is the biggest mistake. Over the next few days, I didn't do anything new. That was the most noticeable part. I didn't fight. I didn't give a boundary speech. I didn't sit anyone down to explain how I felt. I just did the same things, but a little less. Earlier, I replied to messages instantly. Now I took a few minutes. Earlier, I sent reminders without being asked. Now I waited until someone remembered on their own. Earlier, I filled gaps in conversations. Now I let the gap stay. This wasn't a statement. This wasn't exhaustion. It was an experiment. A very quiet one. Plans started forming in the family group. Dates were decided. Logistics discussed. I watched. I didn't react. Earlier, I would immediately clarify, this time won't work, this venue is too far, this budget isn't realistic. Now I just read. And put the phone down. Nothing broke instantly. It just slowed down a little. One day, my sister called. Can you just check something for me? Earlier, I would have said yes. This time, I asked, what is it? In that pause, something shifted. That hesitation, very small, but real. If you're busy, later is fine, she added. I wasn't busy, but I said, I won't be able to today. My voice was normal. There was no guilt in it. No explanation either. After the call ended, I stared at my phone for a while. I should have felt guilty, but I didn't. Instead, there was another feeling. Space. Something similar happened at the office. A colleague asked for late-night help. Earlier, I'd say send it over. This time, I checked my calendar and said, tomorrow morning. They accepted it. The world didn't stop. I began to understand that my overfunctioning was convenience for others, not necessity. This realization wasn't empowering. It was unsettling. Because if everything keeps running even after I pull back my extra effort, then what was I adding? In the evening, my mother messaged, "You've been a little quiet lately." I read the screen. Didn't reply. A while later, another message. "Is everything okay?" I typed, "Yes." Just that. I knew if I asked, "What are you noticing?" the conversation would change. But I didn't ask. Because I didn't want to steer conversations anymore. Slowly, people began to adjust. Meetings became a little messier. Plans grew more confusing. Small friction points surfaced. And for the first time, that friction wasn't my fault. This wasn't backlash. It was discomfort. People were used to a version of me that smoothed everything out. Now, the smoothness was less. One evening, standing in the kitchen, I noticed. I was cooking without any rush. No timer. No parallel tasks. It didn't feel like freedom. It felt unfamiliar. And unfamiliar things often scare us. I realized. I still looked strong. But being strong was no longer an effort. It was becoming a choice. And choice comes with responsibility. Toward yourself. This wasn't a dramatic shift. It was erosion. Where nothing breaks. It just slowly loosens. And for the first time, I could clearly see that. If I go back to doing everything the way I used to, it won't be generosity. It will be my consent. Some roles don't form suddenly. They are handed over slowly. So quietly that one day you can't even remember whether you ever said yes or not. I remember when it all started. Not with a big event. Not even with a crisis. Just small moments. When my college roommate sat on my bed crying, and I moved my assignment aside. When plans fell apart in the friend group, and everyone looked at me, "You'll handle it." When after arguments in a relationship, the cleanup became my job, explaining texts, fixing silences, softening tone. Every time, the same lines. "You're so strong. You don't need much. You get it." At first, it feels good. You feel chosen. Trusted. You think, "I matter." Slowly, strength stops being appreciation. It becomes expectation. The same thing happened in my family. When someone felt overwhelmed, they called me. When decisions were pending, they asked me. When emotions were messy, they put me in the middle. But when it came to giving support, the assumption was that I didn't need it. I never complained loudly. Maybe because I had convinced myself that being needed equals being loved. If I'm useful, I'm safe. If I'm managing, I won't be left behind. I hadn't chosen this belief consciously. It built slowly, over years. I noticed that soft women are protected. They're given rest. Their limits are respected. My response was different. "You're strong. You can handle it. It doesn't affect you." And every time, I didn't break that image. Because I thought, if the image breaks, love shakes too. This backstory wasn't about trauma. It was about conditioning. Where applause never comes. But the workload keeps increasing. Where presence feels essential. But protection is optional. I was beginning to understand that in trying to make myself indispensable, I had made myself replaceable. Because when you fill every gap, people forget the value of the gap. When you clean up every emotional spill, the mess stops being visible. And when the mess isn't visible, the cleaner becomes invisible too. This realization wasn't painful. It was precise. Like someone had solved an equation for me. No drama. Just clarity. I also saw that I had never openly asked for help. Maybe not because I didn't need it, but because I had convinced myself that I shouldn't ask. Strong women don't ask. Strong women adjust. And when adjustment becomes a habit, people start seeing it as entitlement. Now the stakes were becoming clear. This wasn't just about feelings. It was about identity. If I kept playing this role, I'd always be appreciated, but never held. And for the first time, that thought scared me. Because some things in life don't ask for comfort. They ask for presence. And presence requires looking weak sometimes. I didn't know if I'd learn how to be weak or not. But I did know this. The investment that was never counted was now emptying me from the inside. And emptiness is the most silent warning for any strong woman. Some truths stay theoretical until they start taking something from your life. For me, that moment didn't arrive suddenly. It arrived quietly, inside calendars, between decisions, like missed chances. At work, an opportunity opened up. Not flashy, but meaningful. A cross-functional project, extra visibility, real ownership, a clear path to growth. My manager casually mentioned, "If you're interested, let me know. It'll need someone who can lead without hand-holding." That line was written for me. And maybe that was the problem. I opened my calendar, looked at meetings, looked at deadlines, and then I saw family plans. The ones I had already said yes to. Weekend commitments. Help requests that hadn't come yet, but would, I knew. I stared at the screen for a long time. And for the first time, I didn't ask myself, how will I manage? I asked, why? Why does every opportunity become a calculation for me? Why does growth always demand a trade-off, and why am I so often that trade-off? I drafted a reply to my manager, then deleted it, then wrote, "Can we talk next week?" That next week carried a lot inside it. That same evening, my sister messaged, "Can you help with something? It's small." I read the message. I knew what small meant. Small is never small. I replied, "I won't be able to today." After that response, there was silence. Longer than usual. I thought guilt would come. Instead, pressure came. Because for the first time, my availability wasn't assumed. It was questioned. The next day, family plans were discussed on a call. Dates were being set. Logistics. I listened. I didn't correct anything. Something was decided incorrectly. I let it be. After the call, my mother messaged separately. "You usually take care of all this." Usually. That word was heavy. Because usually means expectation. And expectation means obligation. I was starting to understand that the stakes weren't just emotional. They were tangible. Every time I fix something, I take on someone else's responsibility. And every time I take it on, I'm not somewhere else. Not fully present. Not fully available to myself. I thought about that project again. If I said yes, something would break. Maybe schedules. Maybe comfort. But if I said no, something else would break. Slowly, invisibly. My trajectory. This realization wasn't frightening. It was sober. I wasn't strong because I could do everything. I was seen as strong because everything was placed on me. And when weight becomes normal, people forget that someone is carrying it. I didn't make the decision yet. But for the first time, I acknowledged that the right to decide is mine. And this small shift could cost a lot. Because when you pull back availability, people start seeing you differently. Not as reliable. Not as easy. And ease was the biggest currency of my role. I was beginning to understand. If I move forward, some relationships will fall behind. And if I stay, I'll fall behind myself. This was the point where the stakes became clear. This was no longer just a story of hurt. It was a story of choice. And every choice takes something away. Truth never arrives head-on. It slips out through someone else's mouth. That's how it happened with me too. It was a Sunday afternoon. The rain was light, just enough to make sound on the window, not enough to stop the day. I was looking at notes for that same project on my laptop when my phone vibrated. It wasn't an unknown number. Not family either. My aunt, my mother's cousin, someone I rarely speak to. "Are you busy?" her message read. I replied, "A little." "What's up?" She sent a voice note. I usually avoid voice notes. This time, I played it. "I just wanted to say this," her voice was soft. "Your family sees you as very capable. That's why they expect more from you. You're sensible, you manage things, so people forget to protect you." The sentence ended. I sat there, unmoving. She added, "It sounds like a compliment, but really, it's a responsibility dump. You don't complain, so everyone assumes you're fine." It wasn't an attack. Not advice either. Just a mirror. I didn't write anything back. I didn't need to. Because for the first time, someone had said exactly what I had been avoiding saying to myself. That evening, there was a family call. Normal chatter. Upcoming plans. The same rhythm. I listened. In the middle of it, my mother casually said, "You always know what to do, so we didn't disturb you." Disturb. That word got stuck in my head. Since when had my need become a disturbance? Or maybe, since when had my presence become so predictable that there was no need to disturb me at all? After the call, I opened my old messages. Years back. "Can you handle this? You're better at this. You don't mind, right?" Every line was polite. Every line reasonable. And together, they formed a pattern. This discovery wasn't emotional. It was clinical. Like a diagnosis. There was no villain. No conspiracy. Just convenience. Built on my consistency. I understood. They didn't rely on me because I was strong. They relied on me. So they wouldn't have to be. This realization didn't hit my chest sharply. It settled. Heavily. That night, I didn't make any dramatic decision. Didn't send any message. Didn't rehearse a boundary speech. I just sat there, watching the rain. And for the first time, I saw clearly. This role wasn't accidental. It was a system where I was central, but not protected. I asked myself one honest question. If I became unavailable tomorrow, would any plan change? Or just the expectation? I didn't need the answer yet. I just needed to know that I was no longer unknowing. And after awareness, returning to old comfort is the most dishonest thing you can do. I closed my laptop, put my phone on silent, and told myself, whatever happens now, I won't call it an accident. Because accidents happen when choice isn't visible. Now, choice was visible. Decisions don't always arrive with noise. Sometimes they just change habits. There was no announcement in my decision. No from now on moment. I didn't sit anyone down to explain what I wouldn't do. I just stopped doing it. The first thing to go was reminders. I stopped opening calendars. Stopped keeping mental backups of other people's schedules. If a date was wrong, it stayed wrong. Next went cushioning. When plans were vague, I didn't clarify them. When someone was confused, I didn't jump in. I let discomfort pass, like it was someone else's experience too. It wasn't cold. It was careful. At work, I messaged my manager. Let's talk about the project. I'm in. That's it. There was no excitement in that I'm in. There was responsibility. I blocked my calendar. Reshuffled meetings. Some overlaps became obvious, and I didn't fix them. The first friction came from family. A plan was changed last minute. Earlier, I would have adjusted. This time, I said, that won't work for me. Silence. Then, okay, we'll figure something else out. Figure something else out. I put the phone down and realized. The world didn't break. My mother messaged. You used to handle all this earlier. Earlier. I didn't reply. That day, I noticed how my body felt. No rush. No scanning the room for gaps. No preemptive fixes. It wasn't peace. It was unfamiliar neutrality. A few days later, the backlash came, slowly. In tone. In pauses. In the of messages. People started seeing me as less available. Less responsive. Less easy. No one said anything openly. But the energy shifted. On one call, someone said, "You've changed." I didn't answer. Because it wasn't a statement. It was an observation. And observations aren't defended. I asked myself, am I uncomfortable? Yes. Am I wrong? No. Because for the first time, my discomfort wasn't my responsibility. That week, I shifted things in my apartment. Not furniture. Rhythm. I kept mornings slow. Checked my phone late. Drank coffee alone. No one noticed. And that was the point. I wasn't considered strong because I handled everything. I was considered strong because I kept handling it. Now, I wasn't handling it. At least, not everything. And this decision wasn't reversible. Because once you see that your effort was optional, making it compulsory again is self-betrayal. I didn't create distance from anyone. I created boundaries. And boundaries are quiet. They don't explain. They just exist. I didn't know what would happen next. Who would get upset? Who would adjust? I only knew this. I wouldn't be easy anymore. And letting go of ease was the most honest choice I could make. Backlash doesn't always come with noise. Often, it just changes tone. First, messages got shorter. Then they became dry. Then selective. Updates came in the family group, but I wasn't tagged. Plans were made, but I wasn't asked. It didn't feel like exclusion. It felt like recalibration, like people were testing a new reality. One weekend, confusion happened. Dates clashed. The venue was double booked. Earlier, I would have caught it. This time, I didn't. The result wasn't drama, just inconvenience. A call came. How did this get missed? Someone asked. I calmly said, I didn't know. Silence. The same silence, where I used to jump in. This time, I didn't. Okay, someone said, we'll figure it out. Figure it out, again. Slowly, irritation began to surface. You used to be more involved. Now you reply late. You don't really care anymore. There was no accusation in these lines. There was expectation. And when expectation breaks, people get uncomfortable. At a dinner, small, casual, someone said in a half-joking tone, "So now you've become a VIP." I didn't smile. I didn't argue either. I said, "I'm just not available." The table went quiet. No one laughed. In that moment, something became clear. People were comfortable with my availability, not with my absence. This wasn't rejection. It was the loss of entitlement. Later, a cousin said to me on the side, "You've changed. You used to handle everything." For the first time, I asked, "Was that my job?" They had no answer. And that was the answer. The most interesting moment came when a neutral person, a family friend, with no stake in it, quietly said to me, "You're doing the right thing. People get used to your strength. When it disappears, they're forced to see their own weakness." That validation wasn't loud, but it was steady. I didn't need approval. I needed a mirror. The backlash continued to grow. Calls reduced. Requests became generic. No one was angry, just distant. And that distance didn't feel like punishment. It felt like clarity. Because now, interactions were clean. Not transactional, intentional. I also saw that some people began to adjust. Responsibilities were redistributed. Mistakes became visible, and the world didn't fall apart. The people who genuinely cared learned to ask, "Can you do this? If not, we'll figure it out." This language was new and telling. The ones who only wanted convenience fell back. And that separation wasn't painful. It was precise. I didn't take revenge. I didn't give lectures. I didn't weaponize my absence. I just kept boundaries. And boundaries did their job. They revealed who wanted a relationship and who wanted a resource. There was no triumph in that realization, just alignment. Because when you stop making yourself easy, the world starts seeing you differently. And for the first time, that difference didn't scare me. In the end, what changed wasn't relationships. It was me. There was no dramatic moment where everyone apologized to me. No speech was given. No big closure arrived. Life just settled. I no longer scanned every conversation. Where's the gap? Who's uncomfortable? What needs fixing? If silence showed up, I let it be. If confusion appeared, I didn't claim it as my job. Earlier, this felt careless to me. Now, it feels honest. Mornings changed. The alarm was the same, but the urgency wasn't. I drank coffee alone, phone face down. The day didn't begin with someone else's agenda. I talked to family. Less, but clearly. Some people drifted away naturally. Some came closer unexpectedly. And some stayed, just with new rules. I noticed that when I stop looking strong, people react in two ways. Either they adjust, or they disappear. Both are acceptable. At work, the project moved forward. It was messy, demanding, but it was mine. For the first time, I asked for help, properly, without justification, without apology, and the world didn't punish me. That realization was quietly liberating. I didn't become soft. I didn't become fragile. I just became balanced. Being strong was no longer my default identity. It was an option, one I chose, when needed. And that choice changes me. Sometimes guilt shows up. Old habits don't leave easily. Sometimes I catch myself thinking, if I'd just done a little more. Then I stop and ask myself, at what cost? That question brings me back. I didn't take revenge on anyone. I didn't punish anyone. I just started distributing my warmth equally. For myself too. And that equality is the most uncomfortable thing. For people who benefited from imbalance. I'm no longer called low maintenance. Independent is heard less too. Now people ask, is this okay for you? If not, we'll figure it out. These sentences are small, but weighty, because they carry choice, consent. I'm not invisible anymore, and not in the spotlight either. I'm just present. One morning, light was coming in through the window. Coffee was getting cold. The phone was silent. Not lonely, peaceful. That's when I understood. I haven't become cold. I've just stopped being the warmest one. If this story made you pause somewhere, maybe it's because you, too, have been handling everything in some part of your life. And if you've made it this far, maybe you're asking too, am I really strong? Or just convenient? If that question stirred something inside you, write it in the comments. Because some things aren't meant to be understood alone. And if you felt this story could belong to someone else too, then staying here for more stories like this might be worth it. Sometimes the biggest change happens quietly, and that's the kind that lasts the longest.